Zuzu Zambo. Yes, I've learned a new word today. I hope I got it correct. So, greetings from Singapore. I am sitting here at home in Singapore and bringing you greetings from 7-8 hours flight away from where you are. And it's my pleasure to be here to share with you about privacy and data protection. And many thanks to Victor and the team from AB Ventures for having me here, because I think this is a very important topic that I really wish to share, and perhaps we can start to grow this together. So, Victor, a few words.
Hello, Mark.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Really appreciate it for your effort. And then, we just clicked, and then this is a very important topic for the AV Venture family, and then we have been really working on it to find the ways so that we can save data from our client. And policies are so difficult to understand. Different countries, different policies, and then we have been looking at our own country's policy too. Quite difficult to catch up. So I'm hopeful that with these stations, I think it will be so meaningful for us to carry forward. And over to you, Mark.
All right. Thank you, Victor. And like I said, if you have questions, feel free to drop your questions, and I'll be glad to do my best to answer them as much as possible. So we'll run through this all the way to how long do I have? An hour and a half. And then we do a Q&A. Is that okay? So let's go. So without a safety belt, let's begin. So, and today we're talking about an introduction to privacy and data protection. And there is always a very big question. What is the difference between privacy and data protection? Are they one of the same thing? Are they different? So let's cover that today. So I want to start by telling you that privacy and data protection are two separate topics. Both are very important, and both are essential in doing business today and moving forward to a internet world where we live in. It's extremely important we know how to apply both in our lives as well as our businesses and our work. So I also set up this thing called a personal data protection cooperative, where we hope that one day we Asians would be one of the biggest team to talk about privacy in the world, because privacy has traditionally been a Western topic. So we hope that very soon, one day, we would be represented ourselves as a cooperative all over Asia. I mean, besides, we do have more than 1/3 of the world's population, right? So we could definitely be force to be reckoned with. And you and I are both in Asia, right? So we hope to form this in due time. So we want to be a force, because I believe that Asians handle privacy a little bit different from the West, partly because we have a slightly different culture, isn't it? And culture really defines each and every one of us. I remember a time when I went to India and made cultural mistakes without even knowing. That is a story for another time. All right, so a disclaimer, this is materials that are on my interpretation of the law. I do not give legal advice here, and all the information here is from interpretation and for your use, and please use it wisely. All right, so this is not legal advice. Very important, because we're talking about almost giving legal advice here, but not really legal advice. So we have to respect the professions of our lawyers and regulators. Now, so today I'm going to break this session into 4 simple parts. What are the global trends that are happening now in Asia and the rest of the world? And then what is it about privacy? Remember I told you that the privacy and data protection are different. So what is it about privacy and data protection? What's the similarity and what's the difference? And then I'll talk about some general principles that are pretty universal across the globe. And finally, what makes for us and our work. All right. So first and foremost, I want to do a quick introduction about myself. I am a privacy and data protection advisor and educator. I've been teaching the privacy law in Singapore for Singaporean companies, because in Singapore, every organization, every company, whether it's for profit or non-profit, needs to comply with the local privacy law. I also created a first in the world learning resource on data protection and to educate the public on cyber hygiene, something that's very critical in privacy and data protection. And I'd love to share that with your team as well. But before all this, I was doing hospitality and tourism for the past 15 years. That picture there is me in Nepal with first sight of Everest. I have been to Everest Base Camp. I've not been to the top of Everest, but I've been to Everest Base Camp twice. And I love hiking, and I can't wait to get my feet into Thimphu and Bhutan. In fact, I planned an itinerary. The moment I land at the airport, I want to hike to your capital. Yes, hike, not take a bus or drive, yeah? It's possible, right? I checked. So that's the plan that I have. And I want to, and for many years in tourism and hospitality, I manage a resort in Malaysia that is at the foot of a mountain. So for the past 15 years in tourism, we've been preaching sustainability. And of course, Bhutan is the best standard in the world for sustainability. I think your king and your country have done really well. And trust me, it's so hard in Asia. You know, we have been scolded many times for not giving bottled water. 15 years I've been scolded. How come you don't give bottled water? That's lousy service. But today, I think people are starting to appreciate that. So that's my background for short. And my first profession was actually a teacher. I used to teach chemistry and physics. Cannot imagine, right? From a teacher to what I'm doing now. Okay, so that's a little bit about myself. So if you find out more, just find me on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm pretty transparent. So this is my partner, my associate, because we do work on privacy and data protection, and we always function as a pair because when one is down, there's always one to cover up. So that's part of risk management. You know, in my business, because of continuity, I tell my staff when we run events, if I die, touch wood, the event still goes on. That is how serious we are because we do work for clients. We are responsible for the work. So even if some mishap happens and for some unfortunate reason, we still have to serve the customer. That's what I mean by doing business responsibly. All right, so that's where continuity is very much part of our business, and data protection and cybersecurity are part of that being responsible. So that's who our team. So global trends. Well, these are some global trends in the world, and the World Economic Forum has already identified cyber attacks as one of the top major risks in the world. I'm not so sure about Bhutan, but I know all over the world there have been cyber attacks that are happening so often. And I'm sure that being well connected to the internet, you will see some of this news. And there was this time I was reporting on my YouTube kind of vlog that, you know, what are some of the major attacks that happen every fortnight and every month. And now I've stopped reporting. You know why? It's because right now, it's like every week we have some cyber attack. So it's become so common, especially during this pandemic, because there's one job that doesn't slow down: cyber attacks. They still function. These guys still do their work, attacking companies, organizations, even individuals. Scammers still work. Very unfortunately, that is true. So we have to be very vigilant. And these are some of the, even this particular report here is from a particular insurance company, and they also cited 3 key risks in the world. The number one, cyber incidents. This is from an insurance company, from Allianz Group. They cited second, business disruption, and third, climate change. Everyone's talking about climate change right now, isn't it? And we know we have gone almost beyond a tipping point. So we hope that, you know, because of this pandemic, we can reverse. But still, we cannot avoid cyber issues. So the fact that today all of us, or many, don't say all, many businesses are going online. Apart from the farmers, actually farmers still go online, right? They search for data, they search for prices. And when I was in Everest, when I was in Nepal, I was able to take a selfie and post on Facebook almost immediately. Comparing 2010 and 2018, when I was last in Nepal, it's so much more convenient and so much cheaper as well. So I think the use of the internet has definitely grow leaps and bounds. I'm pretty sure even in Bhutan, even in some parts of the rural areas away from city, there is still internet. Yes. So I made a comment once randomly on Facebook. I said, why are we letting the Yankees, people from the outside Bhutan and Nepal, shoot YouTube videos and make money out of it? It should be the locals guys doing videos and putting it on YouTube and making money out of it, because now in many of your countries you already have the internet. So make money from YouTube, guys. You have beautiful scenery, beautiful stories, beautiful music. Make use of the internet to make money. So that, Victor, go do your job, yeah? Inspire people to do more. Now, no chance for tourism anyway. So perfect time. I speak from a tourism perspective. All right, so back to data protection. So again, more statistics. Look at the amount of money people are spending on cybersecurity. It keeps increasing. But you know what? Not enough. Because attacks still happen all the time. And these are some of the major attacks that happen. Anybody knows this company called Garmin? Some of the major attacks that happen. Anybody knows this company called Garmin? You all use Garmin in your country? Garmin is the GPS device. Garmin is a big brand. I think they're from US, and they've got a GPS device that used to chart runs. So many runners and cyclists would buy Garmin devices, and then they will strap it on their arms, and when they run, they can record their runs, they can record their cycling, and put it on the internet for the whole world to see. So last year, sometime in July, Garmin was hacked. And guess what? It was not just one country. The hack affected all Garmin users all over the world, from Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Europe, US. That day, no Garmin devices worked. It was a worldwide attack because a cyber group went into Garmin, held their data, and then sent a ransom note to Garmin. Pay us money. If not, we will destroy your data and your company would be in shambles. So they demanded for not a lot, just 10 million US dollars for the return of the data. It's just like, it's blackmail, isn't it? So this is really not uncommon anymore. So what happened? The whole story ended allegedly that Garmin actually paid the 10 million to these hackers. Quite good money, right? 10 million for hacking an international brand. So this is what happened to one retail brand. And do you all use WhatsApp? You all do, right? WhatsApp. What's up with WhatsApp? You all know WhatsApp this year? That WhatsApp came to make a notice saying that, hey, WhatsApp is we in Facebook are going to start reading your messages in WhatsApp. Did you all get a scare this year in January when WhatsApp made this announcement that say, hey, we are going to start reading your messages just like what Google does? You all know that, right? You all know that Google reads all your messages that you are typing, you are exchanging. So if one day Victor sends you a message, let's go to a spa or somewhere, and then you reply, Google knows they are reading, and then suddenly all the messages will start popping up, or advertisements. So Facebook announced this. But did you know that Facebook already said they're going to do this 6 months ago in July 2020, when the Brazilian law for privacy was announced? They took that time in July to announce it, and they actually put it into effect in January this year. That caused a huge stir all over the world. And just recently, just last week, they were fined a lot of money by the Irish regulators for breach of privacy as well. So you see, this is not just these are not just global issues. They are global, but they affect us because many of us are using these apps, aren't we? So privacy is a big issue here, and laws are going after big companies like this. And this was a major one. This is so major because a different hacking group, attacked an infrastructure pipeline. Oil. They hacked the pipeline in the US, forcing even the president to declare an emergency to allow trucks to send crude oil from the central part of US to the East Coast. Just imagine if this happened to your country. What is Bhutan's number one resource? Hydroelectricity, farming,
tourism, actually, income at the moment. Yeah, tourism.
But I'm sure one of the major, I'm not in Nepal for that, one of the major infrastructure components in the country is hydroelectric power. I believe it's similar in Bhutan as well. And imagine if a hacker attacks that, you will put the nation into trouble as well. So cyber security, data protection, privacy is not just an individual thing. It's not just a company thing. It's also a national effort to defend the country. So a lot of countries have laws to protect companies and the nation. And when the company is doing something so big like infrastructure projects like these, typically the state will come in to put in very stringent laws and good practices. So I'm very sure somebody in Bhutan, the ministry, will definitely be on top of this, because definitely there is some form of security involved somewhere here, isn't it? Somewhere nearer to you, just across the border, India, one of the biggest economies in Asia, and they are also the biggest democracy in the world. They are also great users of WhatsApp, and they have these stats that say that companies facing major data breaches, and it's real. 66% report an increase in attacks. And did you know that you are being attacked every day? Don't believe me? Check your spam mail. How many emails have you got that are spam mails that contain dangerous links? So all of us are attacked every day. And I know your Victor's AB Ventures email is a Google email, right? Gmail. I was attacked the other day. I received an email from one particular guy sending me 300 emails. That was clearly an attack. That would have jammed up my email system, right? So those are attacks. And look at your spam mail. Somebody probably crawled your mail from somewhere and is sending you spam mail. And if you mistakenly click on some evil link, that might cause you issues. So cybersecurity, data protection is really important. And over here, the most major hack that happened just last year, Big Basket in India, the online retail store. Is there a major online retail store in Bhutan right now that people all buy from? Is there one? That people buy stuff and get it delivered to the house? Is there like a shopping site?
Yeah, we do have some e-commerce business here in Bhutan, but not really big as the ones internationally.
Mm-hmm.
Very few local ones.
So it starts from some small one and it grows. So Big Basket was not big previously as well, but it grew, and 20 million of their personal data was stolen. Not only was it stolen by hackers, and the hackers sold it on this place called the dark web. Well, the dark web is real, guys. It is real. It's a black market on the internet where people peddle illegal stuff out there, and it includes personal data. Did you know that even credit card numbers are for sale on the dark web? It ranges from 50 cents to $5 per credit card number, which means that 16 digits on the credit card with the CSV number, it's for sale. You can buy literally anything today. And on the dark web, you have contraband. I'm not going to tell you how to get to the dark web, okay? Don't try. Don't even ask, okay? I'm not going to tell you. But in our investigations, when we respond to cyber attacks, one of the first things we do is we do check the dark web if a company's data was stolen and sold. Why is it important? Because if the data was stolen and sold, it means that people are at risk. That's how they got some of your emails. The Garmin case, remember I mentioned about the Garmin case? The Garmin case, they stole it, but they didn't reveal it or sell it to the dark web or somebody else. But this particular case, why it drew many eyeballs is because this particular hacker stole data from Big Basket in India, and they sold the data. They sold the data for $40,000 on the dark web. So somebody bought it. And why do you think they bought it? They're probably going to attempt some scam attacks, wouldn't they? So out of 20 million, you just start sending. It just takes one or two suckers, yes, pardon the French, suckers to click, and something happens again. So it's a vicious cycle, and I really, really want to call out to all of us, because we are responsible people. We have to not condone all these bad acts and do business responsibly and ethically. So that's something that we need to understand, and that's why we're having this conversation about privacy and data protection. So I really want to urge everybody to respect privacy and data, because ransomware is real. It has become the biggest threat in the 21st century. That report I showed you from WTO earlier, World Trade Organization, that was done like 2 years ago, but this is 2021. Ransomware is now the leading cyber threat, not just for companies, for individuals, but even nations. So we really, really need to be vigilant. It doesn't matter if your company is big or small. Every person is a target, because hackers don't care. They just they just cast a net out wide. They just want to attack and try their luck. Yeah? So ransomware is a big problem. I'm not so sure about the statistics. I can't get data about ransomware attacks in Bhutan, and I would love to find it, but I can't find much. So this is the stats I collected from March to April this year. More than 1 trillion. Billion, sorry. More than 1 billion personal data was stolen across the world, and unfortunately, Singapore contributed almost 500,000. It's embarrassing. Really, it's embarrassing. Singapore contributed almost 500,000 personal data to hackers out there. And this is just the month of March to April, and the biggest culprit is Facebook and LinkedIn, although they did say that they are not involved, but, well, we have yet to see. So this is real. So everyone, hold tight to your personal data, and remember, your company depends on you to protect the personal data in the company as well. So let's have a bit of talk about privacy. So that was all about data, right? So what about privacy then? Where did this privacy word come in? What is privacy? Privacy is about confidentiality and being secretive, right? Well, for us as practitioners or even a teacher, privacy is like when you don't want someone to know about your secret. That's being private, isn't it? But the truth is, if you have nothing to hide, not so worried about privacy, isn't it? But of course, we have to take care of our bank account numbers, our medical records, and the birth of privacy comes after World War II, 1948, where the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was established after World War II. And why do you think the human rights was established then? Anybody want to try? What do you think? Why do you think human rights was established in 1948 after the Second World War? Any guesses, anybody? Might even relate to your country. Anybody want to try? What major event just happened in Europe? 1948. Anyone study history over here? I know we're all very young, right? Not born yet, right?
I think after the Second World War, with the Allies, the two parties being ready to fight it, people realized that the war was everybody was losing at war, and they needed a unified organization at the very least to be just and fair. So UN actually was replaced into another old organization that I forgot the name of the old organization. But I don't think I'm right though.
That's right. You're right. World War II happened. World War II happened 1942 to 1945. I'm not going to bore you with history, but I'm going to just ask you one thing, whether all of you, by the way, you study World War II in your history books and in school? Okay, then answer me this question. Which particular race or which particular type of people were killed in large numbers during the Second World War in Europe?
Jews in Europe, but what I remember is that there were a lot of Asian recruits as well for the Second World War. A lot of Asian that were, the colonizers taking them as well.
You got it right. In Europe itself, it was the Jews. More than 3 million Jews were killed as a result of the World War, because somebody just decided that they were unclean. Make sense? True or true? Someone just decided that Jews were not right, not clean, and if you are a Jew, you worship in the synagogue, you wear a skull cap, you have blue eyes, you are friends with a Jew, you're a neighbor with a Jew, you do business with a Jew, I kill you. So that's what happened in the Second World War. And that was bad because just because someone was a Jew, they were targeted, taken, and killed or tortured, right? So after the Second World War, the Declaration of Human Rights was formed and said that this atrocity should never ever happen again. Everybody deserves to be treated like a human with equal rights, no matter what your belief, no matter what your color of your skin, the color of your hair. Everyone should have equal rights, even gender, right? And today, this is so true. Even today, where privacy it's so important in the West, especially Europe. In fact, Europe, fast forward 2018, passed this thing called the GDPR. GDPR, you must know this four-letter bad word in privacy. It's a bad word because Europe has the most stringent law for data privacy. And GDPR extends beyond European Union, which means that for a resident in Europe, they would be accorded GDPR even if they are outside Europe. So especially if you are in the business of tourism, which many of you are, so am I, we have to be able to uphold the rights of individuals if they know their rights. One of the rights of individuals for the GDPR for European Union people is that they have the right to be erased from your database. So if you are having data of Europeans, better be able to erase them after you are done. Of course, many of us, being Asians, would keep them just in case. No, just in case. No reason to keep, don't keep, right? So that's one of the basic rules in GDPR that we mentioned. So GDPR is there. Even some of you, if you have booked air tickets in the recent future, not in the past 18 months, I'm sure. If you have booked any air ticket, go to any airline, Druk Air, Bhutan Air, go to the website, you go and check, just try to book an air ticket to Bangkok or somewhere, and you'll see that when you put in where you're from and where you're going to, you'll send to this page where you put in your personal data, right? They will ask you for your first name, last name, gender, passport number, date of birth, expiry date, and at the bottom, before you click submit, there will be a checkbox that will ask you if you are a resident of the EU. Click here. Try it later, because that is exactly how the airline complies with GDPR. So it is already there, ladies and gentlemen. It is not something that's new. And because airlines take on international customers, they are the first to look at privacy, and they are the first that must comply. If you do a Google search for British Airways and GDPR, you will see a big fat fine on British Airways because they breached GDPR real bad. So this is real. But, not only is Europe having strict privacy laws, other privacy laws that are very important, that are very stringent, are Australia. Yes, you are serving them, aren't you? AB Ventures, right? Australian Bhutan, right? Australia has a privacy law that has been passed since 1988. So read up about it, because they are also one of the countries that take privacy quite seriously. And more recent, very, very close to you, it's China. China has just passed the privacy law just 2 weeks ago. And now all over the world, in every privacy magazine, they are talking about the China law. Over here you see PISS, peace. Yes, it's a horrible name, I know. It's peace. You say, are you peace yet? No. So now if they renamed it, it's called PIPL, Personal Information Protection Law. In Chinese, it's 个人信息保护法. Yep, so I'm Chinese and I'm preparing for China. So if you are going to do business with the biggest economy in the world, time to look at it as well. So now you see, Europe, China, Australia, US, these are big economies, and they have pretty stringent privacy laws. Okay, US, they're not really ready yet, okay? US has no federal law on privacy yet. Only California, the place where Silicon Valley is, have a very stringent privacy law. Some of the other states have probably no law at all. So we use California as a standard. But really, look at Europe, China, Australia, and in Southeast Asia, Singapore has a pretty decent privacy law, which I'll share a bit more later. So these are countries and their respective laws. I mentioned the GDPR in Europe, and in Southeast Asia, we have PDPA in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. We have the DPA in Philippines, the IPL in China, and just your neighbor, India, is called the Privacy Personal Data Protection Bill. So many countries are already coming at the privacy law. We haven't heard much from Bhutan yet, but I believe being an organization or being a country rather that has a lot of tourism and as a standard for sustainability, I believe privacy will be something very important, and I believe it will be quite easy to implement privacy because I think the whole country, I believe is quite compliant. So once the directions are going to start, I think every company would be on this, and if you are going to serve an international audience, this will be useful for you. And I hope today I can answer some of your questions with regards to privacy and data protection. So this is it. China proposes PIPL over PIS. This was mentioned in 2020, and today they have already passed the law, and it is probably more stringent than the GDPR. But yet to be seen, because the Chinese law will come to effect only on 1st of November. So many companies are actually scrambling right now. I'm not so sure how much business you do with China, but I think China is one economy we cannot ignore, because I think many of the tourists do come from China, don't they? And also, China is like the world's factory, isn't it? And even for Singapore, we have nothing. We get most of our stuff from Taobao in China, isn't it? So we really cannot ignore China. So what are the other benefits of having a good privacy practice? Not just to comply the law, but these are some other benefits, because when you can tell your customer that, hey, I take your privacy very seriously, I think it gives you a kind of a good branding position. Just like how Apple is doing it. If you have been following the news in the US, Apple has been talking about, oh, you know what? While Google reads your mail, Apple Mail doesn't read your Apple Mail is protected. So buy Apple phones. How many of you? Just a poll. How many of you are using Apple? You just type 1. If you're using Apple, type 1. I'm an ardent Apple fan. Alright? So yeah. So privacy, it could be a form of branding in the near future as well. And well, maybe for Bhutan, being an early starter will make you have an edge. At least when you do your work overseas, they know you are respecting privacy and know how to comply with their local laws, so that you know you're doing work with Australia, doing work with China, Europe, Singapore. If you know their law, you respect their law, you tell them, hey, I know your law too, and we're going to help you to comply with the law as well. But secondly, most importantly is trust. Because there's one thing that cannot be earned back. Money can be lost and earned back later, but there's one thing that can't be earned back: trust and reputation. Something that, it's intangible, and it's so important to uphold it, especially if it's a big old brand. So is there one big brand in Bhutan you can name right now? One big brand that everyone knows. Is there one? Anybody?
Yes, Tashi companies.
Tashi,
Yeah. They are a big brand. I think they have the airlines as well.
Okay.
They have some shops, hotels and things like that. But they're a big company.
Okay, there you go. So a brand like that could be affected badly if they are being hacked. So I don't know what will happen, whether people are forgetful, but the fact is, if they get hacked and it goes public, it's going to affect their reputation somewhat. So now British Airways has been stained because they have been hacked badly and fined by GDPR. Marriott Hotel as well. So Marriott Hotel was fined, and then they lost a lot of market value, and then Intercon bought them over. So that's where it's important to build trust among customers with good privacy position. And of course, if the local laws are very stringent, like the ones in GDPR in Singapore, doing a good privacy policies and practices in the company will prevent heavy fines and violations, isn't it? And of course, if the company is going to start up, and I urge all startups to be very careful with your privacy, especially if you are going into fintech or some digital technology. Because what I've seen in Singapore is there are many fintechs that put a lot of emphasis on the idea, the process, but they may overlook privacy. Because when you do an app, an online service, you must remember that there are so many laws in different parts of the world, and you have to be able to somehow comply in most of them because you are collecting a lot of data. And later I'll show you a case whereby a unicorn that has made a lot of money in the US have got into trouble because they have overlooked privacy. So if you are a startup, you need to think about privacy right now, especially if you plan to go beyond your country. And how any of you in startups? Anybody in this room has a startup or are creating a startup? Anybody?
We are a startup.
Yes, you are a startup. So it's important. So what is it about privacy? What's the big deal? Why is the whole world going crazy about privacy? Yes, Mark, you mentioned about World War II. But what is it about privacy? Let me just show you one simple video before I give you some misconceptions. Let me show you this video and you will be wowed. So let me just share this video. This video is a video made by a professor in US. I'm going to turn down this volume. Can you see the video now? Okay, I'm going to play it right now, all right? So listen good. Listen very carefully.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now, that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available to
Is this science fiction or is it for real? It's for real, right? It's possible today, right? Although this was created out of fiction, but do we already have the technology today? Do we already have devices like this that can recognize faces? Hey, the iPhone can recognize your face and turn on the phone, open the phone, right? Do we already have drones at this size that can fly independently by programs? Look at this over here. This is already real. Drones are doing this already. You see that picture in Singapore? That Merlion there, that little creature, that Singapore. Those of you who've been in Singapore, Victor, you recognize that. That picture is created by 500 drones. You think it's controlled by 500 people? No, it's controlled by AI, artificial intelligence. And this was done 2 years ago when it was still 4G. Today we have 5G. Even in Everest, there is 5G. There is signal. Even in where? In many parts of the world, even how remote, there is some form of satellite connection. There is an internet connection. As long as there's internet, we could control a drone. And what is so difficult about putting a picture? So now I got your picture. I can send a drone to you. Can, right? And now we're talking about, during the pandemic, we're talking about delivery using drones. That's not uncommon topic already. So technology is already here. But just imagine if this technology fell in the hands of Adolf Hitler. Or let's put it more recent. If this fell in the hands of Taliban in Afghanistan, which is not very far away, if they have enough personal data and they decide to use this technology against their enemies, is that possible? So do you see that personal data is so important? So just now when you came into Zoom will have prompted you, this session is being recorded, and they tell you, right? They told you it's being recorded. If you are not comfortable, you don't enter. Because right now we're recording this and I'll make it available to Victor and team so they can also revise it. But the fact is that data is being collected now as we speak. Your data is being collected by Zoom, which is eventually collected by me. And I'm going to pass to Victor so you can use for reference. So this is data collection, and now I have all your pictures. Can I hunt you down in Thimphu? Possible, yes. So that's where, when we have data, we have to be responsible. We have to be ethical. And that's why the laws are there to protect all of us, because all of us have rights to our personal data. So do our customers. And therefore, because we recognize that data is important, we need to respect the data and the privacy of our clients as well. And how many people do you know out there are abusing data? Just like what I'm telling you about, your data is being stolen somewhere, and then they have your email, and then blasting you, spam mails, phishing sites, and all these are there. This is the reason why privacy exists. This is also the reason why the human rights movement was created after World War II. So only when we as the younger people appreciate this, then one day, perhaps one day, we will not have these stupid hackers going around stealing data and doing the wrong things. So let's appreciate personal data, and this is the real reason why we must protect the data, not just for ourselves, but also for our clients, because we want to prevent impersonation. How many times you have gone on Facebook and someone uses someone else's identity to talk to you, just like what someone was saying just now, Tara was saying, right? You got a call asking you for WhatsApp OTP. It's not uncommon now, isn't it? Because all they need is your phone number, and they try their luck at hacking your account. How many of you have put OTP on your Facebook? If you haven't, I urge you to do it immediately. Likewise for your WhatsApp, because it's important. Someone's going to try to hack you anyway. Well, you meet up with somebody, but hackers will try. So impersonation is one of the real reasons why we have to protect personal data. Second, of course, is to make sure we protect the privacy and confidentiality. Example, if a person has cancer, a person has some form of medical deficiency or issue, it is very private and only the person or maybe the doctor should know, because it might also infect insurance claims. And this is very real. So that's where doctors have the obligation to protect the privacy of their clients. I mean, doctors shouldn't go there, oh, look, Mark has cancer. Whoops, that's wrong, isn't it? So we know that that is the right thing to do, but the law is there to protect the individual as well. And of course, privacy is important because it ensures fairness. No one should be given lesser opportunity just because they are different gender, different race, different religion, different skin color, different hair color, isn't it? When I was in the Philippines, I was thrown this question: why are you? When we do interview, we as agents are very relational. So I usually ask the interviewee, "Hey, what do your parents do? Where do you live?" So this particular candidate replied me, "What has my parents' occupation got to do with you employing me?" He's got a point, right? I'm actually employing him for him to do his job. What's it got to do with his parents? So you see, I realized that in some cultures, people are very want to be extra. I mean, well, it's their right? So there's no reason why I shouldn't hire him, because I'm looking at him. He has 2 hands, he's fit, he can do this job. Okay, he's hired, right? But sometimes as agents, we tend to be somewhat more relational and we do ask a lot more. So it really depends on the situation. That's why I say that we as agents, being more relational, we handle privacy a bit different. But in my situation that I mentioned to you just now, it was his right, because in the Philippines they have a very stringent privacy law as well. That we have to have fair employment. We shouldn't employ somebody just because of their skin color or religion, right? So fairness is very important in privacy. Even sexual orientation, these are some of the sensitive things that we got to take note of. One more is fraud, because if I can impersonate you, I could go to the bank and withdraw your money. And how many of you have online bank accounts? It's very common nowadays to have an online bank account. You can access your bank accounts. And how about cryptocurrency? Today, cryptocurrency, I know is not accepted in many countries, but cryptocurrency is real. Can I use your identity to get your OTP and access your cryptocurrency wallet? And this is again another new thing, because just today, El Salvador, a South African country, is accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. Well, we do live in our own countries, but we have to know what's happening all over the world. Yes, a country has declared, the president has declared Bitcoin legal tender in the country. That is big. So if you have a wallet and I can somehow hack your wallet and impersonate you, now that's dangerous. So these are the good reasons why we need to have privacy. And a country like Australia, they have a lot of rights as well. So you have to respect their privacy and know some of these laws that go with it. So what is personal data? We talked so much about personal data. What is it? So you heard me say a bit of here and there, but let me define to you what personal data really is. Personal data is any data that identifies you or me. Any information that can differentiate between me and the person beside me. So one of the most important data is your national ID. So in Singapore, the national ID is highly protected because the Singapore national ID, in Singapore, give you a bit of context, we have an app that is created by the Singapore government. And in this app, we use our national ID to log in, and after a 2FA OTP, we have access to many functions that lead to many public offices. Means with our national ID, I can look into my trust fund, I could look into my employability, I can look into my tax, I can look into my housing, my car. Basically, for Singapore, the national ID has an app, and once I hack into that app, I can control your life. Not impossible in Bhutan because with a population that is fairly well managed, it's not impossible to have a nationalized app where everybody's national ID is controlled by a single app. So that's why national ID is one of the very important personal data. Other important personal data are like your medical condition, your location, even where you are, your mobile number to a certain extent, your emails, your cultural profile, your religion, your home address. So all these are bits and pieces of personal data. And in Singapore, like I said, national IDs are one of the key personal data. And in many, many countries, including Europe and US, even pieces of information that when put together that can identify a person can also be personal data. Let me repeat that. Pieces of information, when put together, can identify a person is also personal data. What do I mean? Let me give you an example. My name, Mark Lee. Is it personal data? What do you think? Is Mark Lee personal? How about you? How about for Victor? Victor Gurong. Is that personal data?
I think your name is a personal data too, but it can come in the public domain.
Yes, it is already public domain, isn't it? Because my name is all over. And besides, there are many Mark Lees in the world, and I'm sure there can be other Victor Gurongs out there in Nepal, India, and other parts of maybe Thimphu, right? Because Gurong is not an uncommon last name, and Victor is a common name as well. So there may be another Victor Gurong somewhere else. Mark Lee is a common name. I know at least 5 other Mark Lees. So Mark Lee, the name is not personal data. But let me give you a bit more information. Mark Lee graduated from Anglo-Chinese School, Singapore. Now you have 2 pieces of information. Is that personal data? Not yet, because Anglo-Chinese School, there are so many students, and this particular school has 135 years of history. Are you so sure there's only one Mark Lee here? Does it make sense? So, 2 pieces of information. Mark Lee, this school is not personal data yet. Now let me give you one more piece of information. Mark Lee, Anglo-Chinese School, graduated high school in 1995. Now I'm giving you more information about me, isn't it? High school is about 16 years old, so now you know how old I am. So that's a bit more information about me, but that is still not personal data because that year of graduation in 1995, there may be more than one Mark Lee, and there was. But if I give you the 4th piece of information, Mark Lee graduated in 1995 from Anglo-Chinese School, Singapore, and this Mark Lee is a swimmer. Now, that is personal data because that identifies me from all other Mark Lees. So if I say Victor Gurong, what age, and owner or founder of AB Ventures, and a bit more information about him, that is personal data. So whatever Victor has on Facebook is a lot of personal data because there's only probably one Victor Gurong that is running AB Ventures. So all these information when put together that makes sense is personal data. Even the picture of you, because there's only one of you, is personal data. So all these must be taken in account when you handle personal data, and all these information must be protected because there are laws around personal data. That's the reason why companies like Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Twitter, Instagram, all these companies have a lot of data about us. And that's why they are being regulated so heavily. Especially people like Google. Not only have they got data about us, they use the data about us to make money. Horrible, right? They make money from our data. But as an individual, we own our data. If they make money, must share. But they don't share. That's the reason why regulators are looking at these companies. So data, this is what, this is the Singapore definition of personal data. Wait, let me just go back again. So personal data refers to any data about a person that can identify him or her, and even small pieces of information when put together can identify a person is also considered personal data. And in some countries, I believe in Bhutan, it's called personal identifiable information. It means the same thing. PII and PD are the same, and there are some countries that even classify data as sensitive data. And one of the examples of sensitive data that you all must know is data of children, minors. Especially Australia, they are really, really particular about this. US and Europe as well. When you have data of children, minors, people under the age of 18 or 16, depending on which country you are working with, they are very particular about children's data. In Singapore, we do not have that, but it's been shown that if a breach is there, the enforcement is a lot more stringent. So if you are dealing with children data, you have to take extra precaution. I mean, children are minors, they can't speak for themselves. That's the reason why. So when you do good, go to the orphanage, take picture here and there, respect the privacy. So if you see my pictures now, when I take picture, always take from the back. Oh, we went to some orphanage. I mean, previously, I was very careless as well. When I do all my trips to Vietnam, Cambodia, and other parts of Asia, I will take picture of the kids. Oh, so cute. Take picture. And then post on Facebook, right? That is actually invasion of privacy. So take note. We can do good, but remember, it starts from our behavior to take care of the privacy. So one of the things you could do is, if you're going to take a picture of a kid, take a picture of a kid where from the back or an angle where he or she is not recognizable. I mean, it's really to protect the kid. I mean, the kid may be an orphan or maybe someone who's in need. Let's not let the whole world know this person is in need. I mean, even if you're in need, some people have pride and dignity. So that's where we start by behaving this way to respect people's personal data and privacy. So, but in an organization, there are many types of data. There's personal data, right? Because if they are like Google, Facebook, there are a lot of personal data. And this is the type of data that the law is concerned about. Because other types of data in the organization are company secrets like patents, recipes, super interesting processes. These are company secrets. The third thing is company database. The company's, maybe the company's customers, the company's vendors. So these might also overlap with some sort of personal data in the list. And there's also financial data that also may contain some personal data. So in a company, when we run any company or when we deal with any company, a company will have all these data, but the law is only interested in the personal data. If you lose your company secrets, I don't care. If you lose your business database, I don't care. You lose your financial data, I don't care. But if you lose the personal data of customers, that's where the law will come in. And that's why privacy is important. So this is where I want to say very openly and clear, data protection is important because in data protection, we protect all the data in the company. Agree? All data is important. However, why privacy is extremely important is because personal data is protected by the law in many countries, like the one I showed you earlier. So that's where we have to take special care when we handle personal data. And I also just explained to you what personal data is. And that's when you're aware, you take special care of it. Question so far, this is very important. This is the main difference between data protection and privacy. Privacy is the protection of personal data. Data protection is protect everything, especially today we are all digital. Make sense? Any question on this? This is the one very important point you gotta appreciate. Alright, so what are some general principles of privacy? So I'm going to go through a bit faster so I can take some questions later. So in the whole world itself, in general, privacy, I just explained about data and privacy. In general, the whole world, there is laws on privacy. So I'm going to go through a bit faster so I can take some questions later. So in the whole world itself, in general, privacy, I just explained about data and privacy. In general, the whole world, there is laws on privacy. There is some countries with law on data protection, but most countries have law on privacy, on the protection of personal data. So there are many articles here that are sharing the differences. So today I want to really let you appreciate the difference between data protection and data privacy. So you really have to know the difference. So the common words you see here is data privacy, data protection. Data privacy, data security. Data security and data protection means the same thing. So I hope I've given you a very clear understanding. If you haven't got the clearance, let me say one more time. Every company has data. Data protection is to protect all sorts of data. Data privacy is to take care of personal data. And why is data privacy important? It is because the regulators, the government, have laws on personal data. If you lose your secrets, the government doesn't care. That's your problem. But if you lose the data of my citizens, I am going to come after you. Got it? Alright? So, this is where we play the balance beam between compliance and ethics. So I can't emphasize further because as a company, we must be responsible, we must be ethical on how we use the personal data of our customers and clients. So we need to play the balance because a lot of companies just do data protection. Oh, I protect my data, but are you using and protecting the data adequately? So that's where the consulting comes in. So in the whole world itself, this is a basic framework that I would like to share with you. In most countries, this is the general framework for privacy and data protection. The first thing you do is to assess all the data in the company. You assess what kind of data you have. Is it personal data, financial data, company secrets, or just business data? So once you assess your types of data in the company, you would then protect them. You want to protect the ones that affect the ones that are very important to the company. Of course, you want to protect, or rather you must protect the personal data because it's governed by the law. And of course, you also want to protect your business data because if your business cannot function with some data, then if a hacker steals that data, your business is basically crippled. So you must first assess and then protect what is the key thing first. And of course, protection is not cheap. It costs money, right? So we have to be very wise. We have to think very carefully what we need to protect first. I can say protect, but protect must have money, must have processes, right? So you got to think carefully which to protect first. Protect already, then the next step is to sustain, to make sure we keep protecting. Question: how many of you update your apps all the time? Go and check your phone. Go to your Play Store or App Store. How many apps have a red? Let me check. How many of you have little red numbers on your app like this? Oh, mine is clear. Okay, let's see. Can see that? No red number. Means my apps are updated. How many of you, How many of you not updated your apps, If your apps are not updated, then you may have some risk because the app may have some weaknesses. How many have antivirus in your computer? Next question. Antivirus updated or not? Alright. Yes, Srijana, you got a question. Shoot, just ask. Unmute yourself and ask. Oh, it's not a question, it's updated. Good, okay. Alright. So these are the key things in sustaining. And then to respond. Respond to what? Respond to any data breach. Now in Singapore per se, the government here is very concerned about what happens when whether you can handle a data breach or when a hacker attacks you. How do you handle it? Because I think this for me. The government does realize that it can be very expensive to protect everything. And every one of us are at risk. But if and when we get attacked, can we handle it? Can you handle it? look at the issues I showed you earlier. Canadian, the Colonial Pipeline, Garmin, Big Basket, all these companies were hacked. How did they handle it? All right, so that's part of response. So that is really the general principles in data protection and privacy. So in Singapore, this is the purpose of the PDPA in Singapore, and this is very common. It's very similar to many laws in the world, and it just says this: to govern the collection, use, and disclosure of personal data by organizations in a manner that recognizes the rights of individuals. All of us have rights, right? And to protect the personal data and the need of organizations to collect, use, or disclose personal data for a purpose that a reasonable person would consider appropriate in the circumstances, and also that accountability is a fundamental of the PDPA in Singapore, which involves a risk-based approach to identify, monitoring, and responding to personal data risks. This is fully unedited. This is what is in the Singapore law. So in summary, these words that are underlined and bold, these are the scope of the privacy law in Singapore. Any personal data that we collect, use, or disclose fall under the scope of the privacy law. Because the privacy law is covering, number one, the rights of individuals. And whatever we do, we must have a reasonable purpose for doing so. That's why I say it has to be ethical and responsible. And finally, in the law, we talk about accountability. Show me proof that you have protected your data. Show me proof that you have trained your staff. Show me proof that you adopted a risk-based approach. So a risk-based approach in English is simply you protect the most important and urgent and most critical first, which in this case is personal data. So I personally feel, of course I'm biased because I'm based in Singapore. So this paragraph really kind of epitomizes what is privacy law about, and I think it kind of summarizes it in these two paragraphs. Very, very legal, but I think the keywords are the ones that are underlined. So compared with many other regulations in the world, it is actually very similar. So this is what I'm sharing with you. Take it, compare it with your own law when it is passed in Bhutan as well. So in GDPR, these are some of the rules as well that if you're going to do business in Europe, these are some of the key principles of GDPR. And for compliance, many countries also use this because, like I said earlier, GDPR in EU is the big brother of privacy laws all over the world. So even laws in Australia would probably match with GDPR as well. So GDPR is like the gold standard, and that's why I brought this up, because it's very important to recognize this law, especially if you're going to have clients from Europe as well. So remember I told you I'm going to share a case with you. This is it. This is a case of Lemonade. How many of you have heard of this insurtech company? This is a unicorn based in the US. They are a company that does insurance tech, insurance fintech. They actually collect data of potential clients, and then they recommend insurance packages. And using some form of AI algorithm, they will actually be able to ascertain whether the person is telling the truth and find the best deals for the individual. So this company was flagged as the unicorn of the future because finally we don't need to see a financial advisor to buy insurance. By the way, is there insurance offers in Bhutan? Is it matured yet? Yeah, Victor?
Yes, Mark.
Yep. So this is an insurtech, and
We do have.
Fantastic. So you understand the idea of buying insurance without having to go see an agent, and extremely good during this pandemic. So this was a company that was slated to do really well. But unfortunately, just 2 weeks ago, Lemonade was hit with a class action, which means someone is suing them for privacy violations, because they are saying that this unicorn, this app collects too much data. They over collect data because they are just in case I take more. But remember, like I said, the purpose of PDPA in Singapore, if you are collecting the data, have you got a good reason for it? Have you got a purpose for collection? If your purpose is reasonable, well and fine. But they over collected data. So the people are questioning, why are you collecting so much data? Are you trying to make more money from my data? Are you trying to sell my data to some other company? So that's what's happening here. There is no verdict yet, but this is where I issue a warning to all startups and especially fintech. Are they looking at privacy or are they just looking to disrupt the market? So this is a great example for all of us to learn. InsurTech. So yes, Victor.
Mark, I have a question in the previous slide. Like when I was going through that paragraph over there, there's a line that, I mean, can you go in the forward?
This one?
No. I mean, can you click the forward one?
Which one?
Next slide. Next slide.
GDPR?
No, next slide.
This one?
Yeah, next. This is the one. So in that paragraph, it's written that it claimed that what is that? Collect store, retina scan, voice print, and a face scan, and they present it during the submission process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when the software were developed, I think even the legal people will be there in the team, and then they should be knowing about it beforehand, isn't it?
Yes, they do. So maybe in their documentation, they didn't make it clear why they were collecting it, and that's why they put themselves at risk.
Okay.
So they, like I said, if you collect so much, okay, give you an example, lucky draw. If we are organizing a lucky draw raffle, do you really need my home address? Do you really need to know my occupation for a raffle draw? You really just need my phone number and my name, isn't it? So that's part of over collection. You are taking more than you should. Make sense?
Correct. Thank you.
Yep. So that's
so.
Where...
So your suggestion is better to document it, right, beforehand.
Yes. Okay. Think about if you're going to collect any data. Think about why you are collecting the data. Because if someone issues a class action like this case, they say, "Hey, why are you collecting my data?" Okay, sir, ma'am, we are collecting this piece of information because if you say I don't know, that's trouble. If you have a reason, okay, then there's something to talk about. Whether the reason is reasonable or not, then we can trash it out. If it's not reasonable, okay, fine, I'm sorry. Here you go. So now I'm not going to take anymore. So if it's reasonable, then the person will say, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, fine, go ahead." So, but you cannot say I don't know. If someone to say I don't know, that's problem. So, this is very common in all the laws in privacy, whether it's Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, GDPR, it's the same. There must be a very good reason why you're taking data. Just like for me, travel agent, if I don't take your passport number and your expiry date, your gender, birth name, nothing, how on earth am I going to buy a ticket for you? You don't give me, then you buy yourself. You know what I mean? I have to take your data to buy a ticket for you. And I'm telling you upfront, I need your data to buy a ticket. But if I am going to use the data to sell to another travel agency, now that's wrong. The purpose of collecting data was to buy a ticket and maybe to buy insurance, but nothing more. So you have to match your purpose with your collection, use, or disclosure. So that's a biggest lesson for everybody, and this is the fundamental of how privacy should be done. Everything you do must have a reason, and whatever you collect, use, or disclose. I just use a Singapore structure. Whatever you collect, use, and disclose, you better have a reasonable purpose for it. But of course, reasonable is subjective. That's the reason why privacy is a role and job of the future. This is one thing the robots can't replace because there's an element of judgment and subjectivity. It's not, robots can't do reasonable, right? It's hard. So that's the reason why in 2018, when I saw tourism sliding, I said, I gotta be different. I moved to risk management and privacy because I saw this as a sunrise industry. And it's an industry that still requires humans to apply judgment. And that's where I urge a lot of people, let's start going to privacy because I believe in responsibility and ethical business. And I believe all of you have that. So we have that edge when we are doing business correctly. And I, having been in tourism, 15 years in tourism, how much personal data do I have? Heaps of it, I guarantee you. Thousands and thousands of personal data. And you know what? I destroy all of them. Why? You can't protect what you don't have. If I don't have it, I can't protect it. Because I don't have it. So I destroyed all my data. Because I don't need it at all. So why keep it? Right? So that's really the big take for you. So these are the comparison between the Indian law and the GDPR law. Because I think India is probably the closest country to you. That's a very now you're China, right? Now India and China are the closest countries to you. They have a very strong privacy law. But I believe China will be a lot faster. So I'm going to close off this session with a case study for you, so that you can relate to something that's real. So this happened in Singapore. How many of you know this company, Royal Caribbean Cruise? Okay, I know it's a bad example because there are no cruises in Bhutan. My bad, alright? So this company is a huge company based in Miami. It's like those cruise ships, right? So they are a cruise ship company and they have an office in Singapore. So what happened was this. So this company called Royal Caribbean Cruise, they engaged an IT vendor. And they got an IT vendor that used Amazon Web Services, AWS, Amazon Web Services. Now, so Royal Caribbean Cruise engaged the vendor to process the receipts, financial documents. Remember the time I showed you the thing, right? So they process the receipts for Royal Caribbean Cruise. So Royal Caribbean Cruise is quite clever. They probably have an invoicing department and a receipt department. So they have this company to handle just the receipts. And one fine day, the IT company called Royal Caribbean Cruise. We got hacked. The hacker demand for a ransomware of 0.08 Bitcoin. At that time, 0.08 Bitcoin was just about $1,000 US. And the reason why they were hacked is because they didn't change some passwords and they lack access controls. So eventually, after the whole investigation, the Singapore regulator, the law, fined Royal Caribbean Cruise $16,000. So, a few things here. The business that was fined is Royal Caribbean Cruise. Whose fault was it? Was it Royal Caribbean Cruise? Was it the IT vendor? Or was it AWS? Whose fault was it?
I'll go with AWS.
AWS? Okay, the rest of you can just type your answers in the chat. I'm reading the chat, don't worry. But you see, the truth is this. The law, the regulator, the commission in Royal Caribbean Cruise, the regulator fined Royal Caribbean Cruise, not the IT vendor, not AWS. Why? Because it was Royal Caribbean Cruise who owns the data. It was Royal Caribbean Cruise who collected the data. They were the ones who chose the IT vendor. And it was the IT vendor who chose Amazon Web Service. And I'm sure Royal Caribbean Cruise was aware of all these. If they're not aware, something is really, really wrong here. So the principal is the one responsible. So good news for you if you're just a processor of data, right? Because IT vendor is really a processor of data, not the principal. So that's where, if we understand, if we can assure the principal that we are compliant, we are good, I'm sure we get a job better, right? Rather than having a third party that is not compliant. Wow, Karen, you got a very good question. Karen's question is this: what if we have the same password for all sites except for a few changes at the end of password? Is it safe? Well, now that you tell me, it is not safe. How many of you have password that's still called password? That's one of the biggest problems in password management. So it's very dangerous to have the same password, but I know, right? There are so many passwords to remember. It gets a bit challenging. As a privacy practitioner, I can tell you that companies must have a good password policy to force staff to change password, and that is good practice. How they go around it, that's that's the individual's way of handling it. So I recommend my Singaporean friends use your local dialect, because a lot of hackers use English, right? If you use password or your birthday, your name, that's bad practice. So maybe use your own language, like Kuzu Zambu, something that the English hackers don't know, right? So use something that's cute. So in Singapore, I use Chinese for my password. Legit. I mean, it's a bit harder to hack, but still have a good practice, have a long password with numbers, symbols, and, well, non-English words are usually useful. So you see, this is a real case that happened, and the company that has the principal, the one that owns data, is the one that's usually affected by the law. But as vendors and third parties, if we can assure the vendor, the main party, then I think we stand a better chance to get business from them. So these laws may differ from country to country, but you see, many companies today outsource work. First level, third level, first, second, third level. In this case, you see Royal Caribbean Cruise outsourced to IT vendor. IT vendor has no server. They use Amazon Web Services. And sorry to say, Victor, Amazon Web Services is such a big company. They will definitely protect themselves with all their lawyers and all their privacy statements. You got no chance against Amazon, man. And Amazon will tell you, we are just a warehouse. We put one security guard there. It's your space. You go put your walls, your gate, your security guard. It's not my problem. And I have all these 10,000 pages of legal documents to protect me. Because they are real big, right? We are small, not very big. So, we are at the mercy. So this is a very good case that I usually use, because why? Next question. Can you prevent the hacker? If anybody tells you that, oh, we have a very good cyber security service, 100 protection, pure BS. You know what BS stands for? Maybe for you it's not BS, it's YS. Pure yak shit, right? Because there is no way anybody can promise you 100% protection, because hackers are good. You cannot prevent hackers. Hackers hack for 3 reasons. 1, for pure fun. 2nd, for fame. 3rd, for money, which is really scary. So hackers, you can't prevent them because they keep getting better and better. The only way is to make sure you are able to handle the response very well. And Royal Caribbean Cruise, in this case, actually handled it very well, because what Royal Caribbean Cruise did was, they said no to the ransom. No, we did not pay ransom. And what they did was they recovered all the data and then continued business as normal. They were able to handle the problem. So they were good. And that's why they were only fined 16,000. Hey, 16,000 is very little for Royal Caribbean. You know why? I trained them. And I asked them, you know about this case? The sales staff didn't know. And they told me, actually, Mark, 16,000 quite cheap. You know why? All they need to do is sell 2 rooms, cover already. And the boat has 400 to 500 rooms. Just 2 rooms, cover the $16,000. Not bad, right? So this is too cheap for a big company. So a lot of my friends say, hiya, fine so little only, big company, 16,000, peanut to them. Alright? So too cheap, a lot of people say. So this is a real case, and, well, it's a good lesson for a lot of us to learn. So, questions? Shoot.
Hey, Mark, I'll go first.
Yeah, shoot.
The first one is I have 2 questions. Number one is, the telecommunications companies over here. So we have a state-owned telecommunication companies.
Okay.
And then we can see our numbers have been used to send us an SMS, advertisement SMS, promotion SMS.
Mhm.
How are they using our private data?
Yes. So ads from telcos, okay?
Yeah, that's number 1 question. Number 2 question is, these days a lot of password managers, the plugins are there.
Yep.
Like LastPass. LastPass has been number 1 in hitting the market, and every one of us, we use LastPass. And for Australian client, they use LastPass too. And sometimes I wonder, whether it's a LastPass or whether you store their password in your own hard drive, at the end of the day, you copy paste it. And how do the LastPass handles our data? That's a private data again.
Wow. Okay, let me answer the first one first.
Right, right.
Ads from telcos. Well, how many telcos are there in Bhutan right now? Two. So maybe I'm not so sure whether there's a law in Bhutan on how telcos can use your data and how stringent the law. So if you read their privacy policy, they may have somewhere where they say that they can use your data to advertise things to you. And this is very common for banks and credit card companies, especially credit cards and banks, because they will have your data, they have your phone number, and if they have associates, and if in somewhere in their consent form or their statement they say, oh, I can use your data to send you marketing messages, then they are absolutely not at fault, because you have signed on the dotted line and say that I agree to all this, maybe without even knowing. So many of us give away our consent for people to spam us and send us marketing messages without our consent, without knowing that we have given consent. So that's where, after I start doing this, I start reading every single line in any contract that I buy. But of course, it is also your right to tell them, I don't want to receive it anymore. So they should have such a policy to allow customers to remove their names from all these advertisements. And in Singapore, we had a law where we can choose to remove it or have the company remove it. So that's going to check the telco. Okay, the issue with password software like LastPass. I personally am not comfortable with all this password software. I mean, if a hacker hacks the password software, they got all my passwords. Right? So, single point of failure. So I do not use these password softwares. I would still use an Excel spreadsheet in my computer that I put a password in it, and to be a bit more extra careful, I put it in a separate safety vault. I mean, most of you have, if you're familiar with OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive has a vault where you need a 2FA to go into the vault. So that gives me one more layer of personal protection. So that's what I do, and that's what I tell people. It's free. OneDrive is free, isn't it? So use it. So I do not feel comfortable. Not that I say it's wrong, but I do not feel comfortable with this password managers, and I wouldn't use it. That's my answer for Victor.
All right, thanks.
So be very careful with your telcos. Telcos are one of the biggest breaches of personal data because they have so much data for us. Darn it. And you know how when you buy prepaid cards, anytime you travel, you buy prepaid cards, they photocopy your passport and your ID. Where does that go to? I really wonder. Other questions, ladies and gentlemen? I hope I've been very clear. How about I give you some thoughts? Anybody?
Yeah, till other people comes out with the questions, I just want to go with the third one. In one of the slides you talked about, see how company handles its matters.
Yes.
There is a damage made, but the way we come back and handle the data are really important for us.
Yeah.
So could you kindly, share with us the first 3 important points that as a company we should be keeping these 3 important points when we handle such kinds of incidents happens and then in the future
Okay, so 3 key points. First thing you must know is this: no matter what kind of protection you have, number one, the human. The weakest link is the human. So the first thing is we have to be very aware. We must be very careful. So number one, be careful of anything that you click. Do not click on any links that you cannot verify. Do not click on anything that someone asks you to click unless it comes from a source, a legit source. So just now you saw me send very beginning at 4 o'clock. I posted a link to Jamboard, and I said that was a link that goes to Jamboard. So do not randomly click on links whatever is sent to you by email, WhatsApp, Facebook, IM. Do not click on links unless they're from verified sources. Number one. Number two, update your apps. I mentioned that earlier. Update your apps. Keep your phones and personal data safe. And if your apps, if you're not using your apps for more than 3 months, for heaven's sake, get rid of it. What for? You keep the app in your phone, right? I know we are, a lot of us like to keep a lot of apps, and you never know some of these apps are stealing your data, especially Android ones. But it doesn't mean that iPhone apps are safe, because Apple just makes sure that the apps are not malicious, but it doesn't prevent them. Android apps, on the other hand, 80% of them steal data, and some of them take more data than they require. So make sure you do not click on random links. Number 2, update your apps. Number 3, remove any apps that you don't use. Okay, and then for companies, one more tip for companies, train your staff. So I'm glad all of you are here. So I'm doing this for the first time for Bhutan, and maybe it's the first ever privacy training in Bhutan. Hey, can you put this in the records here? First privacy training in Bhutan.
No, Mark, I mean, my question was more related to what happens, like what are the 3 important points that we need to implement or use it?
Implement.
Yeah, especially once we lose our data or anything happens like to our data, right?
If you lose your data, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now one, first of all, how do you know you lose your data? How do you know you lose your data?
No. For example, let's take an example of I've been handling a lot of the cases with the website hacking. Once the website gets defaced and then followed by yes. So as a company now, we are a company now with a big family. So a few suggestions from your end, like the way we should proceed further.
If you know that you have been hacked for whatever reason, the first thing you must do is change your password. Really, the first thing is change your password, and make sure the password, if it's being used in other apps or other entry, change the password. That's the first thing you must do. And in case if your company if your company gets hacked, you must inform all your customers to change their password. I mean, I've got hacked several times as well. Like, Dropbox, right? Dropbox, are you familiar with Dropbox? I use Dropbox, and Dropbox was hacked several times. And I changed my password several times just to be safe. Airlines are to be hacked as well. Air Asia, Bangkok, recently, Bangkok Air was hacked. So all these airlines, when they're hacked, they also inform the customers that, hey, I've been hacked, change your password. Of course, for credit cards, if you suspect your credit card was stolen, or someone has charged something to your credit card wrongly, cancel the credit card. I've been a victim also of credit card fraud. I've got a website, online buying website that charged me $1,800 Singapore dollars without me knowing. Fortunately for me, the bank called me. Hey, dear sir, you charged $1,800 in your credit card at 2 a.m. Singapore time. Was it you? Fortunately, the bank called me because that was a credit card I don't use often. But what if someone stole your credit card and charged $1.80? Would the bank call you? No. So, 2 things here. 1, if you know you got hacked, if your credit card number was hacked, cancel the credit card, get a new number. But it becomes good practice then to always check your credit cards for small little purchases or deductions that made to you. But the banks won't flag out small amounts. The bank will only flag out large amounts. So I always advise, credit card is something that is so easy to steal, because you go to online website, you buy this, you buy that, or you go and do some pay wave, and now you can those scheming things, right? You can scheme the website from the pocket of men, right? Put the wallet at the butt, and then you have some device that can scheme the butt and steal the credit card number. So these things do happen in China as well. They use QR codes when the WeChat is on. They put a QR code there and deduct money. So these are all ways we need to do. So if you suspect credit card is hacked, do not hesitate, just change. The bank is obliged to do so. So number 1, credit cards, passwords. If you suspect your password is hacked, change. Number 2, credit cards. If you suspect it's hacked, change them as well. And on the same note of passwords, if you can, if the app allows you to have a 2FA, use 2FA as much as possible. My Facebook account is an asset to me. So if it's an asset, please put in 2FAs. So that's what I can say for being hacked. So companies, if you have staff using the company Wi-Fi as well, I also do recommend that, companies sometimes, staff will hate me for this. Do not let staff use company Wi-Fi for everything. What if the staff's phone is compromised? And what if your office Wi-Fi is connected to your server, if you have a server and the server contains critical or sensitive information? So in Singapore, it's a very common practice. Hospitals will not allow the staff to use their own devices in the hospital. Too bad for the staff, but it is really for safety because the hospital has so much sensitive data. Military as well. I'm sure in the military camps they do not allow phones with cameras or allowing staff to use Wi-Fi. I think it's very common in most militaries, even in Bhutan. So these are good practices for data protection. So remember, no matter how good a system is, it takes just one gross human error to cause the best system to fail. The best way is still education and awareness. So I'm so glad we're having this today. It's groundbreaking, dudes. All right. So what next in the journey? So I want to share these three letters with you to keep this in your mind. That whatever we do, you remember GRC: governance, risk, and compliance. Governance is doing things ethically. Risk is to prevent negative impact, and compliance, in compliance with the law. So data protection covers both all GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. And really, we have to be able to make sure we ensure all this because we are serving our clients. And what is desperately needed now, I believe, is ethics. I really believe that we need to be ethical in how we handle data. And this is something that happened in Singapore that really, really shocked me. This is bad. Someone stealing someone else's account. And this is not uncommon today. And this is youth, kids. So it's terrible, right? So what we really need to preach now urgently is ethics, especially when so many of our youths are working at home, studying and working at home and online. We need to really raise the level of ethics. And I'm so glad that in Bhutan, religion is a very, very important part of life. So I always believe that with good ethics, we all can run businesses better and more responsible. So like what I mentioned just now, the key for you to take note is what do you do when you have a data breach? Think about that. How do you handle a data breach if it happens to you? Because this is very important for you as well as your clients. And I'm sure your clients will appreciate if you know how to handle a data breach. And data breaches can happen from external and also internal. And that's why I say ethics is really, really important. So I'll skip this one. And there are several causes that I wish to propose, and I shared this with Victor. We'll talk about it another time. But we hope that we can do a course that educate people more on how to become privacy officers for companies in Bhutan, as well as even outsource privacy officers in other countries. And this I can assure you will be a very sunrise industry. If you can do outsourced services for simple IT stuff, privacy can also be outsourced eventually. And Singapore is one country that allows privacy work to be outsourced. So these are some examples, and these are some of the roadmap we can do. But anyway, to close off, your education for data privacy and protection starts today. So connect with me on YouTube. Every week I have a video. I promise and commit that every week I got a video on YouTube. So this is my channel on YouTube. I'm known as Data Protection Pal on YouTube. So come by, please like, share, and subscribe. And this is a video. If you scan the QR code, it's a video on what is cyber hygiene. In a nutshell, let me tell you what cyber hygiene is. You all know to wash hands, especially because of this pandemic. We all know to wash hands to keep ourselves clean, right? So do you keep yourselves clean online? So that is cyber hygiene. So I'm preaching this thing called cyber hygiene, and I want to share it with the whole world and I've also created a game on cyber hygiene. So this is my Facebook group. So I would also invite you to join the Facebook group. I will only invite people who actually this Facebook group was actually created for myself to actually curate articles from all over the world. So feel free to join the group and throw in articles that you read so that all of us can grow together. So this is not a sales page or sales group, it's just a group of practitioners to post articles from all over the world. So I hope to curate articles from all over the world and so we all learn together. And last but not least, I have a game that I created. It's the first data protection learning resource, and this is it. So I hope to be able to share this with you one day. And it's just fresh from China. I'm so glad. And next week, at the end of the month, I'll be in Europe. No, I'm not traveling there. I'll be virtually there. I'm sending this to UK for a cybersecurity festival, and I'm going to share this game virtually. So connect with me. I'll be glad to share more of you in a while. So this is me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So I hope you can connect with me and learn more together. So I'm so glad to be here. And if you have any more questions, feel free to ping me directly, or you can look for Victor. And we will look forward to having more courses through AV Ventures and providing it for you, your colleagues, and the rest of Bhutan. And maybe we could be the first in Bhutan to do this. So with that, thank you very much.
Yes, Mark. Hi, Mark. On behalf of AV Ventures, we really want to thank you for this wonderful session, especially for a new company like ours who work with Australian clients and deal with the important data and private data. It was really important for us to be informed, and you explained it in such a simple but at the same time very detailed manner. And I am sure I speak for everybody when I say that this was a really helpful session for us, and we hope that we can continue to be in touch. And definitely all of us will connect you via LinkedIn and get to you if you have any more questions regarding data protection. But thank you so much for giving us your time.
Most welcome. I'll make this video available to Victor as well later because this is recorded anyway.
Yes, we will make a blog out of this as well and have it uploaded on our website and our. But thank you so much for giving us your time.